What's going on, guys? It is your boy CryptoMykel here, coming today, well, with an update video, but not so much a hardware update video, but still mining related nonetheless. Some of you may actually know our boy Yeti here, who is now actually an official member of the Dynex team. So first off, congratulations, round of applause, my dude.
Thank you very much.
Love seeing fellow colleagues, as well as people that I know and friends that I've known for quite some time in the space succeed and grow. It's always great to see that, and I always love to cheer on the team whenever that comes to fold. So congrats, my dude. Super proud of you
very much.
And good job.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So what is up, guys? We're going to be talking about Dynex today, of course. So I would love to know, of course, well, what is it? Tell us what it is, my dude, and explain, who are you?
Sure.
First, we'll start with who are you?
For most people that already know me, I've been liaising with Dynex for some time. We thought that as soon as I've done a lot for them already, that it would be the next logical step to, make it a bit more formal. So my official title is Head of Ecosystem and Information Security. So utilizing what I'd already been doing for them in the information security part, scans of their wallet code, and now I also help doing the audits of other code as well inside of Dynex. But fundamentally, I'm obviously responsible for a large portion of development with another gentleman called Ivan. He runs all the platform development. He's a really good guy. We're actually doing a dev call meeting later this week, so that'll be really cool to do. And again, it's, for me, it was the next logical step. I'd already done interviews for Dynex. I'd already gone over to America and done NASDAQ meeting for Bloomberg. I just thought it was about time. So yeah, I guess that, for me, it's been a bit of a mad month. Like I was saying to you before we came on, it's been an absolute whirlwind 3 weeks trying to play catch up with everything going on. And with Dynex being so fast paced in development and they're rolling out update after update, it's been quite a challenge to play catch up. But you asked about what Dynex is, right? So best way to put it is that it is a neuromorphic supercomputer that's on chain. Now, obviously, neuromorphic is one of those words that people look at and go, what does that mean? The most easiest and logical way to explain it is that it's a biological inspired approach, right? So it's mimicking the same way that the human brain works and everything like that. So it takes a very biological approach rather than a very physics or any other kind of approach. There's even, research into storing information in DNA strands, which is like another entirely different sort of area, but amazing research. And obviously we're trying to build that sort of ecosystem out for our own biological inspired approach. So
Right.
yeah, it's
so would you
cool.
say it's a living thing on chain?
I mean, it lives and breathes when we run on it. I've just finished doing all the benchmarking stuff so we benchmarked one H100 versus 1,000 chips on Dynex, which is about the same number of chips that are generated by the card. And the results were massive. Like, we're talking 95% faster than traditional and up to 90% cheaper per run, which is way more than we were expecting. Like, we were
Cheaper
expecting
as
it to
in-
be different, but not by that much.
Right. Cheaper as in like the fees to
Correct.
to rent the compute power, or just cheaper in like physical compute because things are running a little bit more efficiently?
I would say a bit of both, because the efficiency is like through the roof, because instead of traditional computation, right, which is do one task, get it back, do one task, do it back. This happens thousands of seconds of time, but to slow it down, it's one process, one return, one process, one return. Well, quantum changes that. It's all of it in one go. So it does all of the calculations for all the different simulation and run times all at the same time. Sure. I mean, POUW as a general concept, right, is just the next step. Yeah. So it is very much a next step on the evolution of blockchain, in my view. It's not just now validating transaction hashes. We're now doing, on top of that, we're now doing machine learning. So we'll throw a TensorFlow piece of code across the network, or we'll do some Cubo. Cubo is for what you write for quantum annealing and quantum simulation. So I mean, we have a whole bunch of packages that are effectively available. Anything from, like I said, Cubo, TensorFlow, PyTorch. We've pretty much covered most of the top sort of 5 most used ones, and it's been a challenge getting them all working side by side, because obviously running a quantum-based algorithm is very different to, say, a traditional algorithm, right?
Correct.
And we're trying to run those all in parallel together. So it's been quite a challenge. The team's done a fantastic job. They're not stopping anytime soon. They have flat out worked, every day to make sure that the network is rock solid. And we've been testing it thoroughly. So the main thing for that is that with multiple tests, we can validate, we can obviously do benchmarking, we can get the proper data out there. And from now going forward, any sort of benchmarking tool that we're going to be doing will be released on our GitHub as well, open source. So everyone will be able to download benchmarking tools, some pre-built sort of code if they want to run their own or see how it's built. And then obviously you've got the marketplace now that launched, December 13th?
Yep.
And it's
already up at the end of the year.
And it's already up to making somewhere in the region of 50,000 Dynex per month on chain for the computation side. And that's only going to ramp up as we obviously bring on more customers. So it's a good start. It's not where we want it to be yet, because everyone wants more. That's just business. But we are determined to make it better. Even though it's pretty efficient now, we still have found ways to make it even more efficient. And that's the overall goal now, is just constant refinement of that code to make it, to the point where you won't see the POW personally like as 2 separate systems like they are now,
right?
Where they're entangled. It'll be basically what we're dubbing absolute entanglement, right? So you push the POW inside of the POUW mechanism. So your proof of work will also be done by the proof of useful work side of it. So it's really interesting research, and we think that by doing that, we can maybe even get another 10% efficiency out of it, which would be amazing, right? Another 10% is a worthwhile goal.
Right, and not only are you looking at a 10% increase, you're also solving 2 official problems at once. Instead of keeping them separate and having to physically solve 2 problems, you are doing one but still solving the 2 problems. So 10% efficiency, yes, but your overall throughput increases by 50%, which kind of null and voids that 10%, if you think about it. But
yeah, I mean, we're going to probably end up having to redo all of our benchmarks after we've finished it.
Yep.
Because it'll all be new data, and that needs to be tested and verified and put out there in the wild, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. So you officially have answered actually a couple of my questions, all in like one good shot. Like, what is Dynex? What is the proof of useful work model? Which you explained. Indefinite.
I mean, you want to go over how the rewards work for POUW side of things?
Yeah, I was actually that is one of the parts in here. So
so the pricing structure around Dynex obviously has been set quite early. We've since tweaked it a little bit because we brought on something called the Dynex Holders Incentive Program. So it's not staking, right? Because you don't have to lock up any funds. You don't have to do any of that.
Correct.
From inside your wallet, there is what's called a proof of balance. Basically, it's a SHA hash string that just says, this is my balance, this is my wallet, confirmed, basically. From there, you put it in there, and every month, all Dynex holders that are registered for for the holders incentive program, get paid a slice of 10% of the revenue that's generated from the marketplace. It goes back to the holders. So it's not quite staking. It's just an incentive program for people
Yeah.
to, keep hold of their Dynex.
Correct.
And, it's a way for us to give back. But for that to happen, we had to restructure how we're getting paid, right? So originally it used to be 70-30 split. 70% to the miners, 30% to devs. Now it's actually 20% to Dynex or our accompanying Moonshot Foundation, which is a whole nother subject I'll get onto in a second. But basically it's 20% now to Dynex, 70% to the miners, and 10% goes to the holders. So it really is like we're trying to spread it out so that there's a reason for you being in Dynex, whether it be as an investment, or whether you've got equipment on the network doing the computation.
Right. And of course, not financial advice to anybody on the channel, but I kind of see like that specific program as dividends. It's basically dividends of holding stake in the company, because you otherwise, if you sold those shares, your dividends go away. Or become less, because probably right, because your official holding is now less because you've sold some, which still like works like traditional market. So I love seeing something like that because no one really does things like that, especially in our space.
It revolves around staking, right? You have to lock up your funds.
Right.
You have to either send them off to a liquidity pool, or they lock it up in your wallet. You can't touch it. You have to then mess around getting it out. We're not doing any of that. The idea is that there's no lock-ins because it's not staking per se. It's just a proof of balance.
Correct.
And the proof of balance, obviously, if you go and spend some or you go and increase that, if you increase it, you just don't get paid on the increase unless you update your proof of balance.
Correct.
If you lower it, obviously our code that runs every month to pay everyone will know that your balance is incorrect and it will then readjust it down. So it's still early phases. We only released that this month. We already have paid out the first month of it as well. So that's another thing that's great that will give more confidence to the system.
Right.
We've also inside of the marketplace we now have a GPU information tab that will allow you to actually, and I'll send you the link just so that you can obviously take a screenshot if you would like. But right now on network, we have 128,604 GPUs as of right now. So, I mean,
very nice.
Yeah, it's the equivalent to something like 28 petaflops in compute. It's pretty outrageous when you think about it. That puts us in the top 25 supercomputers in the world, just to give you an idea. Yeah, we're pretty proud of that when you work it out. You look at that and you go, wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot of computation power being used, nonetheless, not just sitting stagnant. At this point. So
we currently actually have customers using it now, like actual use. So
yeah, you can use the marketplace currently. I actually have a client of mine who was building a proof of use for work computer, but he couldn't get paid from his proof of use for work computer. So he was like, hey, how do I get paid from using this? I don't like VAST. I don't really want to do all that. So I gave him a few options. And I was like, here's two good options that I know of, and I think they're pretty good, which is Salad. I don't know if you've ever heard of Salad, which is pretty interesting. Similar to VAST, but it's a little bit more open, and they're a little more lenient compared to what VAST is, and prices are different. And of course, I gave him the Dynex, of course, marketplace, and he's been using the Dynex marketplace the entire time. He didn't even try out Salad. He was like, "Oh, I can get paid crypto and still provide like work on the network." He goes, "I'm going to do that." He goes, "I would rather do that than feed someone else's."
It makes it a lot easier when it's a unified system, right?
Correct.
For us, doing it on chain was mega important because we understand that at the beginning we're an anonymous team, right? With unknowns around the technology and everything like that. Now we're starting to be a bit more open pull back the curtains, so to speak.
Right.
We've introduced the new team, the team leadership people that are involved. Co-founders have been listed. You know, all of our ethics committee is now listed as well. We're really making the effort now because we do listen to the feedback of the community. The community said that they wanted to know more. So as soon as we started realizing, and all the legal side was dealt with, like getting all the companies set up and all of that, then it was time to introduce everyone to the Dynex team.
Right on. And that's good. It's good to see that they are giving the community like kind of what they want and taking their advice and their opinions and actually listening and building that way. So I'd love to see that. I know currently, what are some of the best ways to earn Dynex? So of course the marketplace.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, there's actually a couple of options for getting Dynex. Obviously, the normal one would be you can go to an exchange.
Yep.
They're listed on Gate.io, MEXC, Bitmart. There's a couple of others, CoinW, I think. Yes, CoinW. And like I say, I think Trade Ogre's even has got a pairing for it. So, I mean, we've got obviously traditional ways of getting it, but the more, you know, for us being miners, right? Obviously, you can mine it. Dynex is still mineable for about another 2 years on the emission curve. We would like to think that that gives us enough time to onboard all the enterprise level customers we wish, and then obviously that'll top back up the emission curve. So
can that curve change varied upon network hash rate, or is it timed? Is it
no,
on
it's
time
done
based?
on time. It's done on time, so it gradually decreases. A bit like Casper's, it's the same in that regard, right? It's a declining emission curve.
They have a schedule, and it's not based upon how much is being emissioned per day. It is a steady curve, which is not affected by difficulty or hash rate.
Ours is slightly different because we push our fees that we take from the marketplace and on network directly into the block rewards.
Correct.
So you'll probably see, if you've been mining Dynex, that some of the blocks go really big and then they drop back down. Well, we're trying to iron that out so it's a more steady, flat line. But in theory, we should be able to, once we've got enough people on board, be able to get that back up to, say, 300-400 Dynex a block again. Almost like we're restarting our emission curve at that point, which would be excellent. And like I say, it's one of those fundamental things we understand. By putting in the decline in emission curve, we kind of have put a fire under us because we've got no choice. We've got to work quick. We've got to get it done right. It's got to be stable, but it's also got to be done, you know, within that deadline before we hit that point of no return. Now, we think we're all right. We're on track for that. We just announced actually a new option that we're looking at for you know, increasing those blocks. So it's definitely a case of staying tuned for that news, because we're over the next week or two we'll iron all of that out and we'll introduce it. But that should also include our fiat on ramp, like full fiat on ramp,
So
which is the missing piece of the puzzle. It is the missing
that's a huge piece of the puzzle, and that'd be another way someone could earn Dynex as well.
Yep. There's also one other that most people probably won't know, and it's definitely not for everyone. So if you're a really good coder and you're familiar with, you know, the type of coding needed to do jobs on Dynex, you can apply to become a Dynex expert. There's already 3, I believe, registered now. You go through a proper vetting scenario. They make sure that you know what you're doing, and then you can actually go into the marketplace and pick up jobs that pay you in Dynex. So in the marketplace, for example, I just put a month ago, I put in a job for live audio processing while on stream. So if I was talking to somebody who was only speaking Spanish, could I have it auto translate as it's listening on Dynex? I put up an 8,000 Dynex bounty for it. So, I mean, when you actually look at that, that's a big job, right? But that's what the sort of size jobs come in. because we understand that those jobs aren't ever going to be cheap. Because people,
Correct.
they come with crazy ideas, and that usually comes with crazy money to go with. But our experts, they're all very affordable, and that's one of the other things that we make sure with our experts. We make them understand. If you want good amount of work, you got to make it affordable to everyone. Same principle as Dynex, basically.
Okay. So, of course, another way we can earn Dynex is from the marketplace itself,
Yep.
by hosting or renting your computational power that you may have sitting around. But then also, like you were talking about earlier, basically the derivatives from holding, that'd be also another way you could probably earn. So that's like 4, soon to be 5 different ways that you can earn Dynex, all from providing something to the network itself. It's not even as one thing situation. So I do love to see that there is multiple outputs, because not everybody's going to mine.
No.
And some people just can't afford it. Their price for electricity
I can't afford to run a miner here. My price of energy is 42 cents a kilowatt.
Yep.
So there is zero way I'm mining over here, right? I've got my rigs over in America, and it's half the price, like over half the price. So it makes no sense to mine here for me. But if I couldn't get something over there, I probably would just go and buy the coin that I'm interested in, right? And you can just, and then obviously now we've got the incentive for holding as well, that it would make sense. But I'm a miner at heart. I know you are. Like, we'll mine on them. We'll do it. And the best bit about Dynex is, right, it's the barrier to entry, right, to get into doing it. You don't need a 4090 to get into it, like Vast, for example, right? We're talking about Vast and stuff. Vast, to get you a lot of money on Vast, you need rigs of 4090s realistically, or H100s or A100s, expensive GPUs.
Yeah, you almost need integrate or enterprise grade hardware.
At that Dynex, you don't need that, because its architecture is that it doesn't need massive amounts of bandwidth on the PCI bus. So we can get away with running on 1x adapters, meaning, your normal Octominer with 12 cards in it. Doesn't matter what cards are in there, as long as they're running, they can provide computation.
Right. Okay. So what does your proof of useful work really truly aim to solve?
Oh, okay. So would you like an example for what we've run recently?
Sure.
Because I can give you a good example, right? So
yeah,
we developed something called QCFD.
Okay.
For anyone who doesn't understand what CFD is, it's computational fluid dynamics, and in a nutshell, it's how air and liquids interact with an object, right?
Correct.
So if, for example, you've got an aeroplane or a car, right? A physical wind tunnel will cost you 100 million to build, right? Then you've got the energy to run it, the expertise to run it. Then you've got to actually build a shell to take to the wind tunnel, right? All these are costs. And what we actually built was a virtual wind tunnel on Dynex, right? So I'll actually send you some screenshots, because it's mind baffling, right? Because I've done CFD in the automotive industry, right? And it takes hours and expensive hardware. And I threw CFD on Dynex and it finished in like under a minute.
That's impressive.
For something that should take hours and hours on traditional, right? It took 10 minutes. Not even 10 minutes, start to finish, including the time I took to code it. Took no more than 30 minutes. That's to make the model, code it, and then submit it to Dynex to process. We've actually built plugins now for OpenFoam, which is a CFD program that all the automotive industry uses. RhinoCAD, or Rhinoceros 3D, it's called, I believe now. I still know it's RhinoCAD.
I think it's Rhino 3D is what it is.
Yeah. Well, we've built a plugin for that as well now, so you can actually just bolt Dynex directly into Rhino 3D. Wow. And the next big one that we want to go for is AutoCAD, because obviously CAD software really does work well with Dynex. It's just inherently good for that kind of technology.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I'll send you over some screenshots of the CFD because it really is fascinating how fast this thing can process data.
It's really impressive. I was actually I watch I watch. I mean, I'm into cars. I've been into cars for a long time. I've raced cars for quite a while. I used to race four-wheelers back in the day.
Yeah.
So going fast is kind of like fun to me, right?
Yeah.
That's a good. I used to be an adrenaline junkie. I have kids, and I'm slowed down since then. But I follow a few channels, and they were actually simulating their new racing body through a visual wind tunnel because the body's not built yet. So they're like tweaking the design, and it's like taking them months to do this because they're doing it themselves, which takes a long time, a lot of fine tuning. All of that takes time, and the fact that you can get Dynex to do their work in a quarter, if not even a fraction of the time.
Honestly, one of these days I'll get a chance to sit down with you for a little bit, and we'll actually run some jobs, and so you can see just how fast this actually runs. Like, it's incredible.
I would love to.
But that you're seeing there that I just sent you, right, of an F-16 fighter jet, right, doing Mach 1. So obviously the lines of the CFD suddenly change very drastically because obviously going really fast.
Which y'all are seeing right here, by the way.
Yeah,
y'all will see it.
And like I say, so the way that it does it is it does it in bands because it's got to serialize all the data. It's so much data for CFD that we can't do it all in one shot. It has to do it in groups and then combine it all back together afterwards. But it's just fascinating to watch because, like I say, that took less than a minute. And 1,000 chips, and all it cost was $4.
And the machines that I've seen that are doing like that specific, like they had it sitting next to the guy, and you've seen it, and it was two 4090s in this PC, and it's like a beast of a machine, and it definitely cost him more than $4 to run that model. Not to mention the time it took him to run and do all of it. So, and it looked like it was only maybe him and one other guy. So. He's probably doing majority of the workload.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people who get into CFD end up either they'll go and rent something, and it'll be a couple of $1,000 to rent something for that kind of duration, or they'll build out themselves something that will do it. It probably will be, consumer-based cards basically instead of, the data center grade cards. But honestly, CFD is a fascinating area to play around in, and we're effectively the first that I found. Because I could be wrong, I could be missing somebody that's like private. They don't talk about it, but from what I found, there's really no one doing quantum CFD. It really is a completely new area of research that we're going to play around with.
Yeah, I don't know anything anything like that. So
no.
As far as I know, it's the first.
The next one is to go really big, though. We're going to do a CFD wind factor of an entire city. Like every building, every street lamp, everything. So it's about... So the F-16 is around 10 million vectors and data points that it works around. A city would be like a couple of 100 million.
Right.
Like, it would be a big jump, but it'd be great to see like the speed of how long that would take to finish. So we're definitely going to be running that soon.
Okay. So what else does the proof of use work model aim to solve?
So we've got also some pharmaceutical stuff that we're working on for drug repurposing and drug simulation. That's pretty cool research. It's a little bit out of my realm of expertise. I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination, but the initial research around drug repurposing and simulation is again, I could sit there and read white papers every day about it to see what the team have been up to, because this is something else that we announced with the roadmap, is that every time we're going to get peer reviewed by proper scientists. We're not going to just publish white papers to GitHub and not do anything with them. We're actually going to submit them to the proper places for peer review, because we feel that if we're doing proper research, peer review is important. It's just like no other, we don't think that there's any other blockchain companies really going that far to go and get that kind of review at the moment. And we think that by doing that, obviously that will give more comfort to enterprise level customers who then can see these peer reviewed white papers, see the responses from the peers, and obviously we get some good feedback.
All right. I like that. Is there anything else you want to add into what the previous model currently solves?
What else have we got running at the moment? Obviously the biggest one for the moment has been the CFD. It's been like pretty much 2 months worth of hard work to get it working and make sure that it does work flawlessly. But there's like, we did some data from the Large Hadron Collider recently as well, all around CERN and stuff. I've reached out to CERN about potentially looking at seeing if we can do some kind of hookup to see if we can help do some extra processing for the Large Hadron Collider, because realistically our system is set up perfectly for that kind of data. So we've reached out. We don't know if we're going to get a response, but I would like to hope so, because it'll be really cool to do something with the LHC. Like, it's not every day you get to, go and look at a Large Hadron Collider, which goes through like 6 different countries.
Yeah, that thing is huugh.
Yes.
I know they even had plans to build a second one at one point. That was like 5 times the size.
Yeah.
And
it would have encompassed most of Europe effectively.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Which is just wild to think about. That was even a concept, an idea, and a thought that they were like, let's make it 5 times bigger. What?
Yeah, I know. It's just like, it took such a monumental feat to actually get all those countries to sign off to actually build it, right? That, can you imagine what the fun's going to be trying to get everyone to be like on board with that? Because you're not just talking like 4 or 5 countries now, you're talking like 20 and 30 countries.
Well, you're talking about the whole nation.
Yeah. It's not ideal, but
yeah, and having to like be okay, everyone be okay with that. And when's the last time anyone ever agreed on anything?
I know, right? It's almost impossible to get everyone to agree to something, but I'm very glad that that the LHC was actually built, because technology-wise, we've understood so much from that build out. We've understood new concepts of particles and physics that we've never thought possible, and we were able to prove some more theories and theses, and I just think that as long as we're being sensible with that type of technology and we're being responsible with it, we should definitely investigate and build it, because that's how we progress as a society, in our understanding.
Correct. Yeah. But you got to do it responsibly, which is the hard part to like overcome. Is trying to be responsible with especially that amount of data and power, nonetheless.
Correct.
So on to the next part.
Sure.
What is this one is kind of a little bit darker, but I would love to know, what is Dynex's worst fear or outcome?
Ooh, now that's a question I haven't actually been asked.
Yeah.
So kudos for that one. No, you're absolutely right. It's a really good question. So our biggest fear right now, I would say, and I briefly touched on it like earlier, is running out of our emission curve. That is really a big worry, right?
Which is about 2 years now.
It's about 18 months, 2 years away, yes. But obviously, as those go down, obviously what we don't want is miners disappearing because the profits disappear. So we need to make sure that we get those customers on board. And like I said to you, that's one of the reasons why I'm off to Token 2049. We're hosting a very exclusive sort of 30 to 50 people meal with some of the biggest names in the industry in AI, machine learning, and a couple of other big sort of blue chip customers. So there's 5 of us from the leadership team going, and then also a lot of the staff from Dynex. But what was the most shocking thing, and the shocker for me, was the fact that there is nearly 900 applications to come to that meal.
Wow.
So that is a shock.
And the job got accepted.
I mean, we got our important ones through the door.
Right.
We've emailed the others and said, we're full. Unfortunately, we're full. But what we're going to do is we're going to rotate that. So the next one we do, we'll take the next 50 off that list effectively, and do it again. If it turns out to be a really worthwhile endeavor, we'll do it on a regular basis, or we'll do it when we do shows. Like if we do, for example, Mining Disrupt, right? If we do decide to do Mining Disrupt, and I personally would like to do it, then maybe we'll do the same again. We'll do a sort of meet and dine and get some customers over in the stateside.
Right on. Well, that's awesome. So your biggest fear is the emission curve.
Really, I mean, other than the emissions, right? Obviously, we need a certain level of GPUs to stay on the network, to give us enough raw computation
to keep
be
that
able
competitiveness, right? Because you were like, what you said, you're 20% of. What did you say earlier was?
So we're 90% cheaper and 95% faster than traditional.
Right.
We are obviously waiting on getting access to a quantum computer, so we can actually benchmark ourselves against quantum. We think that's going to be the interesting one. That's going to be the fascinating one, because then you're going to go quantum simulated circuits versus quantum physical circuits. So it's going to be a real good trade-off on the jobs, because some jobs will probably be better on hardware of quantum. And then there's obviously going to be some that are going to be absolutely fantastic on Dynex. In theory, they should be pretty even. But as I've learned by doing all these benchmarks over the last 3 sort of weeks, what I believe would happen, way outside of my remit, like way outside of what I was expecting. I was expecting a H100 and 1,000 chips to be very close. It wasn't even close at all. And what was the H100 when it come out? 40 grand?
Yeah, it was it was upwards of 40 to 50 grand.
Yeah, crazy to think that just a mixed
the newest
bag
one's
of
like
GPUs.
75K. What the new model is? It's like it's crazy ridiculous.
The B100 you're talking about, the Blackwell chip. Yeah, have you seen how much power that thing uses?
Yeah,
it's 1,200 watts.
Yeah, per one.
Per card.
Yeah,
and you could have 8 on a sled.
Yeah, could you just imagine? Just imagine a whole data center full of those, and you want to talk about a miner being wasteful.
I mean,
a lot of power, man.
That is a lot of power. That's almost like it would be over, 20,000 watts by the time you filled an entire rack.
I mean, just 5 of them alone is more than 10,000 watts.
Crazy. I mean, if you certainly needed to get up to a certain level to bring your power cost down, I mean, go get some B100s. They'll solve all your problems immediately, because you're literally one rack and you'll be enough to you got
power. You got like a 20 amp 240 breaker per card.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just
literally
just for one card.
On 30 amp circuit.
Yeah,
it's gonna be crazy.
That's just crazy to think about.
Yeah,
I can't wait. So
we are going to get our hands on a B100 as soon as they come out. I'm already determined to put it up against the mark, because I want to put that on our graph as well. So we're going to actually eventually benchmark like the A100, the H100, the B100. We're going to go through all of the data center cards, and then we'll probably pick maybe the top 5 most popular consumer cards and do those as well, just to show you the big difference between what is a data center card and a consumer card.
Right.
So it'd be interesting to see those benchmarks.
Yeah, it really would.
Oh yeah.
All right. So the main fear for Dynex right now is the emission curve and running out of compute power.
Yeah. We also got that worry.
Those are kind of tied together too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's also the other option, right? What happens if we had suddenly a massive influx of loads of customers, and we don't actually have enough on chain right now to process all that. I mean, 120 something thousand GPUs should be okay for a while. But there's every potential we could have a client come in and go, we want the whole network for a day. You know, okay, they're going to be paying mega money, because having the whole network for an entire day is totally possible if you want it from a business perspective, right? If you want to pay for the whole entire network, we'll do that, not a problem. But
yeah, I think OpenAI rented, what was it, almost $1 billion worth of computational power.
I saw that the other day. I actually saw that the other day. I messaged
they
the team
rented,
and said,
and it was for like what? It was less than a day, and if I'm not mistaken,
23 something hours, I think they
it was like just shy of a day.
Yeah.
You could call it a day. But they paid over $1 billion.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely is doable, and they're going to pay for it.
$1 billion with us, happily. We'll
We will
open the door and let them.
We will train your AI model.
Absolutely. So I mean, the only thing right now, and we're currently researching the development path for this. LLMs is probably going to be another big factor on Dynex coming soon. We're not ready yet because there's some weird inherent problems around running LLMs on quantum circuits. But we think we've finally cracked the conundrum of how to do it. It's just now how to get it infinitely more efficient so that it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to run.
Correct. Yeah. I've currently been kind of working on a project. I don't know if you're familiar with Network Chuck.
Yes.
He did a video recently over a private AI of how to set up your own private AI, and I did a proof of concept. I set it up on a Raspberry Pi. It was super slow, but it works, and it didn't have it connected to the internet, and as you probably shouldn't. So like doing something like that, like, would you be worried of any kind of runaway?
I don't think we will be, because we do have cutoffs. So if we notice a piece of code stalling because it's stuck, because it can't find that perfect sweet spot answer, and it just keeps going, we do have systems in place to time it out, return it saying that it's reached its limits and so forth. And if need be, we can obviously, if it's a definite reason why you need to run that long, we can extend those timeouts per user. But realistically, most jobs won't run for more than an hour, to be fair. I'd be very surprised.
Right. All right. It's pretty cool and interesting stuff. I love to see that y'all are constantly innovating in the space and haven't stopped yet. So I absolutely love that y'all are keeping on doing that.
My list of things coming is almost 5 pages long, to give you an idea. So yeah. And that's only covering me for 6 months. And that's only covering me for 6 months. So yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully there will be video of Dynex team at the token conference you're about to go to.
Absolutely. I'm gonna be taking some photos, promotional material, videos. I'm even gonna try and do a couple of recorded videos, although really doing YouTube and stuff like that really isn't me. We make a laugh and a joke out of it. Like I appear on loads of YouTube, and even though I don't have a YouTube channel, so it's quite funny in that regard. But I think that I will start getting at least some video content while I'm there, just so that we can show off what we're doing, right? It's more what it's about, is just to go, this is our group, this was a photo of our group and stuff like that. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. Not looking forward to the journey, but definitely looking forward to the event.
Right. I know people love to see stuff like that, people that like the teams building and just getting to know them in general, seeing them in person, in public, see how they're interacting with people, builds confidence in a team and a project. So I love to see that they're doing that and taking the steps to do that. So I do know, before you've hit on pretty much all of my questions that I had here, and I would love to extend. Is there anything that you would love to share before we wrap things up here?
Okay. Sure, why not?
Give us something spicy.
Okay. Lots and lots of people have been wanting to know who Sumitomo is. Maybe at Dubai, people find out.
Ooh, guys, y'all heard it here first.
It's a case of maybe keep a lookout for photos and videos, because I have made it very obvious who he is. Right, you will see a picture, and this
the
is
only
the
one
funny
not
bit,
only
right?
person not tagged.
Oh no! It literally says
him.
on the back of his shirt Sumitomo. So if you see him, like, do feel free to pop up and say hello to him. He's a bit shy, and he might not know how to sort of sit there and talk with people, but
And deal with the shock.
yeah. But basically, keep an eye out, because it'll be really interesting to see who clocks where he is.
We all heard it here, guys.
I'm almost tempted to see if we can build a little map with a GPS locator so you can actually track him.
Just here he is.
Yep.
Joke's on you, I put it on the cat's collar.
Here's a question for you then. Is there anything, after hearing what you've heard, is there any sort of thing you'd like to see come next? Like, is there something
to see
sort of, like,
yeah,
I know that
somebody
somebody mentioned us getting into doing space technology, like SETI, and maybe reach out to somebody like SpaceX, for example, to do their computation of Starship, because they're obviously doing all the testing of that right now.
Right.
I'm fascinated by that. That's all me. But I think it could be great, because we could do, and here's the best bit about quantum stuff, is that they use that for trajectory re-entries and stuff. JPL, the big NASA lab, they use quantum annealing to actually work out escape vectors for Earth's orbit and re-entry for Earth's orbit and to actually return. So we're going to reach out to some big companies over there in that sort of space, I think, down the road. But
pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
So I do know maybe one thing I would like to see if y'all can put in. Well, actually, I got two things for you. One, would love to see if you could program tornado data on Dynex. I live in Oklahoma, which is the tornado alley of all the United States. We get tornadoes, and we are in the season right now of tornadoes.
It's tornado season over there.
Yep, it is. It is spring, and that is always tornado season, because our days and nights temperatures fluctuate so dramatically here. It was 30 degrees this morning, and it'll be in the 70s by the later this afternoon, and it's always a recipe for disaster. So I would love to see if y'all can simulate tornado data inside of Dynex. That'd be pretty interesting. I don't know how you would do it. That's above my pay grade.
I can already think of a couple of ways of doing it. Actually, I was reading some research papers on something very similar for wind shear.
Was it the
pressure? Wind shear on the outside.
Yeah, the wind shear data. Look for
really interesting.
News 9 of Oklahoma. They actually have the wind shear rate, that they have a personal data model that they have and they use. Oh,
nice.
So maybe reach out to them. Reach out to them.
Absolutely.
And see if maybe
that's a really cool idea. Actually, I like the idea of that.
Make it better, because being ahead of stuff like that is always the goal, to stay safe and alive. But you can't predict Mother Nature.
Idea, right?
Mother Nature does whatever she wants, and we've learned that quite a few times over the years. So giving someone better tools to be prepared is always a must. So I would love to see that. That's my number one thing.
That's a really cool idea. Well, I'll message it over to the team in a minute and see what we can do.
Awesome. I greatly appreciate that. And second thing was more of a question, not so much I would love to see, but more of a question. Are y'all looking at building or getting into data centers to further stretch and improve your computational power?
That's a good question. Obviously, we've looked into what we can do to augment it. Whether or not, we could build out some servers for ourselves to keep a certain minimum supply on the network at all times. We may go down that route, but right now there's nothing in the pipeline. But it's an interesting idea, right? So could we have something stored ready at a moment's notice? It could handle a small drop off of the network, for example. It's a very sound idea as a way to back up the network effectively. So if there's any problems or suddenly we're out of capacity, we could just turn those on at a moment's notice. It's not a bad idea, actually.
Right on. What brought that question and thought to my mind was your fears, right?
Sure.
One of the fears is running out of computational power. So having a standby of computational power is never a bad thing,
No.
especially for situations like that. Or, if big companies come in and say, hey, we want all of this power or all of this computational use, we want all of this, and you still have a standby for others and people who are currently working on jobs, or if they're like, hey, we want this, do you have any more, and they can offer them more, which could come at a higher price for being turned on, but that's a different story. But I figured that is a good way to curve that fear.
Creates that level of redundancy as well, right? So we already have built-in redundancy with when you book a job, right? So you might only ask for 1,000 chips, but our system will bring on 5,000 because of error correcting.
Correct.
So you don't have access to like ECC at that point, right? So you've got to build the equivalent of ECC. And that's what we've been doing. We actually have a concept at the moment that we've been working on for making sure the data, what we call the fidelity, right? It just means how accurate it is. But we want to make sure that if it's below a certain fidelity, it would just automatically re-request that chunk of data to actually do so. So yeah, I would say having a backup though is a very sound idea. It goes
not
along
only
the same
that is
ethos we use.
right, and not only that is like if it is Dynex's backup power, if it is coming online, not only could Dynex have a supply coming in that they would actually be earning from, but they could also feed back into the same emission schedule of paying it back out into the miners or into people who are on standby. You know what I mean? Even if, because I'm sure people wouldn't like them taking the entire fee for themselves, but they could redistribute it back into the network and help the initial emission curve, because there would be an additional supply coming in, still providing work and workload, and also providing more.
Yeah, I mean, pushing all those fees that are earned by doing all the jobs directly into blocks was probably the most sensible idea we ever chose, because it future-proofs our blockchain at that point. Because if we're putting the fees into the blocks, then everyone who's mining gets a reward, right, from the pools. Correct. So it's really, really, something that we've been honing in quite a lot recently. Malob went behind the Stratton protocol. That made it easier for pools to manage their software. It made it a lot easier for the miner developers like BZMiner and 10Miner to integrate as well. And we actually simplified the whole system a lot by doing that. But what we also found was a bit of a sort of a pleasant side effect, was actually the resources needed to run Dynex, like from our side, the infrastructure side, halved overnight. Because obviously it's more along the same lines as just an ordinary pool Stratum, but with a whole chunk of extra data tagged on the end of it, which is obviously the proof of useful work data, which is all encrypted. So you can't, even if you looked at it, you wouldn't be able to see it. And also you only get a very small part of the whole job. But everything has high level of encryption. That's one of the bits that I'm there on the team for, as part of my role with the team, is for the security side of it. So we've probably gone a little bit overboard on the security, shall we say. Then again, they did hire a paranoid security expert. So I mean, if you're going to hire somebody who's paranoid about security, you're definitely going to get something very secure. So
Right.
that's what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. We've been tying it off. The new GUI wallets, for example, they're all being digitally signed with a proper digital certificate coming soon. So they'll all be redone, re-released. Smart screen on Windows won't ever throw a hissy fit ever again, because we're going to, go and get the Microsoft digital signed code certificate.
Okay.
So you know what, like
Nice.
Microsoft does with their software, basically the same thing.
Yeah, I think Vertcoin with their one-click miner, they did that a few years back. They ended up getting the certificate, so
Yep.
that way, whenever you launched it, it didn't yell at you anymore. It wasn't
Correct.
like, oh, this is a security.
Yep.
It was just
Yep.
launched.
Exactly.
Because
It
trusted
removes
it.
some of the blocks, shall we say, and hurdles that a new user might find. Somebody who might never have mined before, that wants to get involved, they fire up and it just goes, oh, warning, this is all, potentially a virus. And suddenly they go, oh, whoa, I'll just turn this off and not bother then. Well, now we're going to get to that point where they won't have that problem.
Or have files like immediately removed. Like if you download like
Correct.
XMR Miner into Windows, it'll remove parts of XMR Miner the moment it downloads it, because it is a known problem.
That's it. Yep.
So it's good to see that. And so kind of falling back real quick before we head out of here.
Yeah.
You were saying that you dropped the overhead by 50% overnight. So would that fall back upon, like kind of what we were talking about earlier? You said that it did improve by 10%, but really that 50%, that 50% workload, is that basically how that came into fold?
Yes. Some of it, yes. Some of it was refinements from the miner devs. BZ Miner come up with a really cool solution. 10Miner really packed in the efficiency changes that he went for. He actually got reduced power consumption and a little bit more hash rate out of it. It's pretty impressive. The devs that do the miners at the moment, and we're trying to get some more. We do understand that one for AMD and one for Nvidia is a bit sketch. We understand that. We're trying to get some more on board now. I've reached out to most of them. It's just waiting to get, information back from them. But literally, just every time we push it again, it's a little bit more efficient. It's a little less power. It's a little less resources on the systems to run, but yet gains more long term. So faster, more energy thought, energy consumption thoughts and stuff like that. It really is an interesting time to be part of the team, to be fair. Being this early to a project, for me, being like as much of a nerd as I am, I mean, being in this early with new tech like that is just every sort of, tech guy's dreams, right? To get into cutting edge technology. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'm glad you're a part of the team, and I'm glad that you are focused and willing to do the job.
Absolutely.
So I applaud you again, my man. I'm proud of you for doing such an amazing job that you've done so far, and for getting onto the team and continuing to crush it and better yourself. I greatly appreciate you. And thank you again for coming on today and answering all of our questions, even some of the tough ones that, like you said, may not have been asked. And I would greatly appreciate you, anyone, of course, for sharing this and liking and subscribing. That way you can get notified of more stuff like this. And maybe we'll have some stuff coming up here soon about Dynex. So we'll catch y'all on the next one, guys. Really appreciate y'all. Any final words before we head out of here, my dude?
Just a case of, like with anything, right, in mining, not just Dynex in general, always make sure you do your research, because that's the way you don't get, in a realm where you don't understand, or you end up getting, screwed out of a lot of money. So I always say to everyone, make sure you do your research. Obviously, even though I'm part of Dynex, I will still say, do your research. We have plenty of white papers out there, plenty of actual peer-reviewed white papers as well. Do the research, see if it's something for you, and if it is, then obviously put your mining rig on and participate.
That's right. And guys, with that, we will catch y'all on the next one. Much love. Peace out. Remember, keep on mining. Keep your watts down low, your hashes up high. We'll see y'all next time, guys. Stay savage.